In this video, I'll show you how I cut my Clay cost by 90% and how you can do the same. Right here, we have the sort of analysis that I put together. Full transparency, I built this in Claude. Essentially what I was doing was just checking a bunch of different models that are available on OpenRouter and just sort of seeing what I could be using to get sort of the same accuracy or relatively the same accuracy, but just at a better price. So here's sort of what the report looks like. Here's sort of the savings that we could look at if we moved with the Llama 4 Scout model, just moving forward. So here, sort of the way that this is broken down, an overview of the data. And you'll notice that here I ran 100 rows for a few of them, and then 1,000 plus here. Full transparency, I actually ran everything with just 100 rows initially, ran this report, figured out which ones were sort of the most cost efficient, and then ran those at just higher scale just to get a couple more rows through this. And I will be sort of scaling this test, but just wanted to show you how you could do this yourself super easily. So yeah, if we wanted to go over cost analysis, this is what that looks like. What we're really looking at is sort of at least getting into the 3 decimal space was like sort of my mental sort of indication that it was like a model worth going into. Full transparency, the control and what we typically use is this right here. So it looks cheap, right? It's like 0.008 cents. So what is that? A 1/100th of a penny. It just adds up. For 1,000 rows, it costs $8. For 1,000 rows with these models, it's 86 cents. So, and with similar accuracy, that's kind of the biggest thing. We look at the accuracy analysis. One thing I wish I did was honestly have the control be something I manually reviewed. So we typically use 4.1 mini super accurate lists that we build overall. But I'd love to know, like with full confirmation, like what the 1,000 companies are at. So maybe this is even just an exercise that you run for yourself. Maybe you do it for 250 companies, and those are the same 250 that you're always testing against. So I'm definitely going to build some type of like control that has been manually reviewed, if that makes sense. And again, maybe you start with 100, maybe you start with 200, like up to you, but then you always test against that same, and you know, if you get false positives, false negatives, you know, off of your standards, if that makes sense. And then, yeah, you can go through this. A couple things as I was running this, like right here, this one's completely broken. So it was like a free model that I saw, wanted to test it, just a bunch of errors. So anyways, you don't have to fully review your data into Clay. You can just throw it into Claude, sort of add it to the files of a project, say, hey, build me a report, and I can give you the prompt for this. If you would like, just send me a DM on LinkedIn. If you're interested. But yeah, so you'll get this. Really the biggest piece is just accuracy, and then price is really what you want. Now that I've shown you the report, let me show you how you can build this for yourself. So first I'll be going into OpenRouter and then showing you how to build it into Clay, and then as well how to put it together into Claude. So let's get right into it. So if you've never been on OpenRouter before, this is what the interface looks like. You'll most likely have to log in, but essentially you can see what the most popular models are at the moment, what people are using, etc. So here you will go into credits. You can add money, so you can top up however, how much money you want to allocate to this. The one thing that's really beneficial is that it gets pretty cheap. Like it's not super expensive to run these tests, right? So, and then as well as when you're scaling, like the idea was to get a more cost efficient way of looking for enrichments, right? So like super worth it to move to OpenRouter. I couldn't recommend it more. Then you'll create your API key, and then you'll go back and you'll be ready to go really into Clay. One thing if you want to explore models is by going here. So you can see like rank by newest, you can go by pricing, low to high. As well, you could probably run sort of a prompt online, or like you could ask ChatGPT, ask Claude, what are the best models to use? If you're using this like for clients, I don't recommend the free ones because there's always going to be daily limits on this. But if you're looking to just test it, or you have like simple AI type tasks that you want to run, like you might as well use the free models, like especially if it's like one thing that you run every single day and you're happy with the outputs, run that. But for clients, never run that just because you'll run out too quickly. Yeah, so you can go through this. I personally just asked Claude, like, hey, what are some models I should test? And then I added those into Clay. One thing, so this isn't necessarily the one we'll use, but these codes right here is what you copy to import into Clay, which I'll show you right now. So this is what the Clay table looks like. So this is sort of my control that I use. It was always sort of just using a Clayagent access with web search 401 mini, super accurate, but again, just too expensive to really run this at scale. I ran this with the find companies just to make it as simple as possible, but really we're just looking at the domain, so you could just run that. And then in this specific case, I was looking for hotels, and the prompt reads like this. It's just you're looking for companies that operate as a real hotel or a lodging business, or it could be a motel, a boutique hotel, anything like that. Here's what not to look for. Like, we don't want asset managers or sort of investment firms that are in real estate. So anyways, that was the whole prompt, just to find hotels. And then I ran this on Nano as well, just to see accuracy. And then it's slightly cheaper. So that was interesting, but just it wasn't as accurate. So we didn't want to run with that. Then I tested the models in OpenRouter, which is what you're here for. So the way I have this set up is find companies, company name, domain, and then here I have a drop down select of those codes, right? That I just copied over from OpenRouter. So this is what it looks like. And that's, I just selected the entire column like this. Then you need you need a text bubble for the actual prompt that you're running. So this is that exact same prompt that I showed you, just with, like in a formula format, just because the way we have to run this, and I might have to blur stuff in here. Let's just get right here. Okay. So this is, you're always going to have to run it like this. So you'll add the method as post. This is what the endpoint looks like. And then this is what the body looks like. You can adjust the amount of tokens. It won't always use your max amount of tokens. It's just sort of what the limit is. If you decide, or if it happens to need all that. The model is fed like this. So you could also just hard code this, like right here, right? Super easily. You could hard code that in there, but I'd rather be able to adjust it over here. And then the content, just because there's so much text, you can't have spaces in these, as well, adding the variables in, like the custom fields that we're adding, like the domain for it to do the research. It'd be too messy to have it in here. So just add it as another prompt before. And I'll show you the headers in a second after I make a quick change. And this is what the headers are. So you're going to have content type, application, JSON, and then authorization, bearer. And then here you're going to go create a new API key in OpenRouter, and then bearer, and then that API key. And then it typically starts with SK underscore, and then you just go from there. So you copy that. As well, every single one of these is going to have different rate limits. So keep that in mind, especially if you're going to run this at scale. You're probably going to run into errors. So I'd sort of test it, also like read online of like what the actual limits are for that specific model. But I was really just looking for accuracy. So I just put that. And then if there were errors, I was just manually rerunning them. So I didn't see too many errors except for the Llama 3.3 model, but maybe the rate limit was just too high. So, but yeah, so then from here, and you can actually make edits from this. So this is what the output looks like when you run that prompt. You go to choices, 0, messages, and then you get the content right here. So realistically, you get your answer that, does the company qualify as a fit? No. So you could run that, and then for this price right here, you'd get your answer. The thing with running Clayagent again, which made this actually more expensive, so it's actually more than a 90% savings, is, and I did this across the board, but it's just, I'm just telling you how I would improve upon it now. I'd make this a prompt that just says like, analyze the results from this, from choices or messages right here, content, like analyze and find what this content says and like what the final determination based on that, and then use the cheapest model you can find, and then of course make it just the create or modify content. So cheapest model, you could run that. Honestly, you could probably run this just as a like formula within Clay. The one thing I would enforce and actually make better then is the rules here. So it's like in the notes, or however you structure this, be a lot more strict with how the outputs need to be shown. And then for you can always just pull from that. So it'd be super easy, but like final determination, final answer, like it just wasn't clear enough for me. So I was using a Clay agent to help me determine that. Which almost like it was more expensive to pull the no here than to actually get the whole analysis, to read the website, everything. So that's why I would change that. And it did skew some of the results then. But Llama 4 still turned out to be the cheaper model because they all got the same logic applied. But anyway, so here's what the Llama model would look like, same exact thing. And what I did from here was run this prompt for every single one, and then download it. So go to actions, go to exports, download CSV, and then without changing anything here, don't show me that. Without changing anything here, I just imported it into Claude, and I'll show you what that looks like now. So this is the project I had in Claude to help me build this. So model testing, and then I imported all of the final files in here, and then as well the control one, just to know what it looked like. I did go back and forth initially, as I said, just to like with 100 rows, sort of what that looks like. And then just to get an idea of which ones I should like double down on and do like a larger test. And now even after I've done 1,000, I'm going to run this for 10,000 just to see, are we still accurate enough? Are we, like, is it running rate limits, all of that? So yeah. And then you sort of run a prompt. I have it here as like a simplified, like generate this, but because I have instructions inside my bot. But then you would pull this up, and then you see the entire breakdown that I showed at the beginning of the video, which is super clean, gives you a full breakdown of everything. And then you can also adjust this to just give you a clear answer based on what you're looking for. But the one thing I would do is for the accuracy, it's just, I would handpick the control, especially as I'm testing. But yeah, so really the big benefit here is whenever I'd want to run this for another model, I'd duplicate a table, rename it to whatever, and then pick the model that I actually want to run. And then here, I'm keeping these here just so I have like a history of all of these. Whenever this gets like too large, I'll just be able to like see it here. And then that first thing that we copied over on OpenRouter, so this, we copy that, go here, paste this, and then you'd be ready to go. And then now it's if we just add 10, it's an option that you can add right there, or you could hard code it, up to you. But yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. I will be sharing the template in the description, or at least of just like one of these, so you can actually add your own model, add your own API key, everything. And yeah, so I hope you found this valuable, and I will catch you in the next one. All right, have a good one.